How do you crush live low stakes poker? Well, in today's session at the Vic here in London, I got put in some really tricky situations, battling maniacs, pros, and calling stations in this 1-3. See how I navigated these spots. And would you have played any differently? After half an hour of being card dead, I pick up pocket nines under the gun, the straddle is on, so I open it up to 15, and the small blind now makes it 65. In the half hour I've been at the table, I haven't seen him do anything out of the ordinary. He's been quite under the radar so far, so I am a bit alerted now to his 3-bet, but with pocket nines I still think that I have a call there pre-flop. And then the flop is queen 10-8, which is not amazing. Yes, we do have a gut shot, but the problem is if that jack comes in, he might have ace king, and then I might be losing all my stack, or at least a big portion of it, if he continues barreling. That said, he only c-bets for 35 pounds into a pot of 140, so I think I can't do anything else than call here. The turn is a 7, and now his size is up. The thing is, now I have an open-ender, but I still have the same problem if the jack comes in. That said, he might have aces, he might have kings, so if we bink a 9, we would also be good, and now the 6 will give us pretty much the nuts. So I'm not loving this spot, but then again, I can't fold now. I think that would be too nitty. We are still deep enough. So I just call the 95 and then see what he does on the river. And the river pairs the queen, and he now checks. So for a second, I'm thinking whether I should turn this into a bluff now, but I'm thinking I will never get aces to fold. I will never get kings to fold. Definitely not a queen. And the thing is, we are only about 280 or so deep at this point. So I give up. I still win against ace king or any other airball bluff, but unfortunately I do not win because he shows ace queen for top trips. So now we are 200 pounds down. This is definitely not the start I had in mind, but now we're on to the next hand, and this is a bit of a wacky one, the way I played it. So the hijack makes it 10 pounds, and then we have this super loose player in the cutoff, and I battled with him in my previous vlog, so go and check that one out if you haven't seen it. And this guy, yes, he is usually quite passive, but he doesn't play his big hands fast. He usually slow plays them, and I have seen him 3-bet with all sorts of junk, and now he 3-bets to 35 here, so I'm just not buying it. I look down at ace jack of diamonds, and I am cold 4-betting this on the button, yes, for value, because this guy doesn't fold to a 3-bet, he doesn't fold to a 4-bet, no matter what he has. So this is a super thin 4-bet, and indeed the original razor gets out of the way, and this player calls the 4-bet out of position, and the flop comes down pretty good. Ace 4-6 with the ace and the 4 of hearts, the 6 of spades. We do have top pair, decent kicker, but obviously if he did have ace king or ace queen, and I'm not putting it past him to have ace 4 or ace 6 there, or even 4-6 for that matter. So still, anyway, I think we have a c-bet. I only bet 50 pounds here, going less than third pot. I think we are not super deep, so that's absolutely fine to go very small there. And he snap raises to 175. So again, I haven't seen him play his value super fast. He typically is on a draw when he check raises, but obviously I'm not entirely sure here, but nothing else to do for me, I think, than to call. It would be way too nitty to fold, and I'm not going to jam here. I want to keep his bluffs in. And then the turn is an amazing card. It is the Jack of Clubs, and this card now gives me top 2 pair. I'm not saying I'm invincible, but I now beat 6-4, I beat ace-4, ace-6, any 2 pair that he might have, so I'm only losing to sets at the moment. And when he jams for 350 on this turn, I have an absolutely easy call. He says he has a pair and a flush draw, and we run it twice, and we hold both times. He shows down 8-6 of hearts, so this was a big pot, and this is much more the way I like it to go. Right after the last hand, I requested to change to another table where there were two really big spots there. One of them had over 10,000 pounds in front of him, but unfortunately, as soon as I got there, both of them just wrapped it up and left. So I was stuck at a game that was much worse now, but I couldn't go back to the old table. So here I was with ace-9 offsuit on the button and a player in the hijack limped. This was a good occasion to make it 15 on the button, and he calls. The flop came down 10-7-5 rainbow. I just c-bet half pot, where I basically pretty much range bet here. He called. The turn was a 9, so now I have second pair, and I don't think I can get a lot of value out of it, so I think it's best to just check. And then on the river, he bets 25, so that's not a huge bet, quite small. I don't think he has a 10, although he can of course have a 10, but we're getting such good pot odds, and I just flick in the call, and he turns over ace queen for just ace high, so we take this one down. In this next hand, we have a new villain who sat down just to my right. He is a very good loose aggressive player, and I'm going to play a lot of pots against him. So this is the first installment. He raises it up to 12 pounds in the small blind. I have ace-8 offsuit in the big blind, and I call. The flop comes 9-9-7 with 2 diamonds. He checks, as he should, with most of his range on such a board out of position. I take a little stab with my ace-high. It's good to get him to fold weaker hands, and also he can call, but I didn't really think it through, because he now raises it up to 35, and this is already quite a marginal spot once he check raises, but I do not think that he has a big hand, and he is quite aggressive. The problem now is, though, that if I call, I do expect another barrel on the turn, but I just don't want to give up too easily. I am in position, I have some backdoors, and so I am calling this one. And then the 10 comes on the turn, so we now have an open-ender, and there is 70 plus 24, there is 94 pounds in the pot, and he now overbets it to 150. And I know he does that all the time. He loves overbetting. I have never seen him show down any hand, because everyone always folds. He seems to really know when to put on the screws here, when to tighten them, and he does it here with me. And I think I don't need to defend a lot here, and I still think I am probably ahead the way he's playing, because he's really saying he has a big hand. He's not doing this with king 7. He's doing this with a 9 or better, or some bluff, and I beat every bluff pretty much. I don't even think he would do this with ace king, ace queen or so. So I'm pretty sure that if he has a bluff, I am ahead, but I don't want to call 150 pounds and then face an all-in on the river, and I'm not even drawing to the nuts, and it's not completely impossible that he has pocket 7s, pocket 10s, or 10-9, 9-7. So he does have some value hands, although I'm sure he also has a lot of bluffs in his range, so I let it go here for 150, and that is okay. If he risks so much, one day I will have the 9 in this spot, and then I can just call down and hopefully win a big pot against him. Another pro sits down at my table, and in his very first hand he opens it up to 10 pounds in the hijack. I have king 9 of hearts on the button, easy 3-bet in this case. He calls. The flop comes 6-6-3 without a heart, and we both check. So this is a spot where in GTO, and I am playing GTO in this hand because I'm playing against a pro, and I'm not saying that I'm really playing GTO, but I am at least inspired by GTO decisions. And in this spot, I should either bet big or check, and I would probably check a lot with aces, kings, and queens as well. So I do check behind here, and then the 4 comes on the turn. So I'm pretty sure this doesn't really connect with his range very well, and if he has an overpair, I think that I can possibly even get him off that on the river, and if not, maybe we'll get lucky and we'll bink a king or a 9 there. So I bet 50 pounds now, fairly big bet, my 2/3 on the turn, and he snap folds. Next hand against the aggressive player to our right, again small blind versus big blinds. He opens it up to 12. I just call with ace-jack of diamonds. The flop comes pretty nice, jack 5-3, 2 spades. He c-bets this time, I call. There is no reason to raise this aggressive player. The turn is a 9 and we go check check. I did consider betting here, but I thought I would get some more value on the river if he has some sort of a showdown value hand, and if not, he might bluff at it again. again, so I wanted to give him a little bit of rope. And then on the river, when the 8 comes in, he does bet, but sadly only very small. He bets 15 pounds, and at this point I'm thinking, well, I definitely have to raise. I'm almost certain that I have the best hand here, and yes, it won't be a great spot if he re-raises me again, but I have to take that risk. So I make it 70 pounds. He thinks for quite a while, and unfortunately he then folds. This next hand is a really interesting one. So there is a player who I would call a bit of a nitfish. So he is quite tight, but he also isn't a very good player. He has a limping range most of the time. So I know when he raises it up to 12 in the low jack, he probably has some sort of a hand. I'm in the big blind with pocket fives. Everyone else folds, so I just call this one. The flop comes ace 9 6 with 2 hearts. I check and he checks it back. And when the turn comes the king, I do very briefly consider whether I should start bluffing here if he has a hand like queens or jacks, but then I'm thinking he still has aces in his range, he might have kings in his range, he might be slow playing something else. I prefer to just give up here, so I check again, and I would check fold the turn, but he checks behind again. And then look at this river, it's a 5. We now have a set. Sadly, it's the lowest set, so we have bottom set, 5th set on this board. And I still think that now we have to go for big value. He's not the type who would start bluffing here, and I don't even think he would bet thinly for value. So I'm going to overbet this. Yes, I'm going to make it 55 pounds. That's more than a 2x pot-sized bet. And he snap min clicks it to 110. And this is really not a great spot, because as I said, yes, I have a great hand. I have a set here, but it's 5th set. So he could easily have slow played aces. He could have pocket kings that he slow played on the turn. He could have pocket 9s. He could have pocket 6s potentially. But he can also have ace king and maybe even other 2 pair that he is playing this way. I'm pretty sure that this is not a bluff. I do consider whether I should fold this, but the pot odds are just so good. I really don't have to be good that often to call in this spot, but I do expect to lose more often, quite a bit more often than I win here, even though I have a set. So I do flick in the call, and he proudly shows ace king, and I of course turn over my pocket fives very quickly, and we do win this one. So this was the one hand that we actually really win against, that he slow played. And yeah, you see, this is what you get for slow playing. Had he bet earlier, yes, I would have folded. He wouldn't have made any money. But here, he just value owned himself on the river, and he didn't put any money in the pot while he was ahead. He only put money in the pot when he was behind. And I can tell you in this next hand, something very similar happens again. So this time I'm under the gun. I have queen 10 of clubs. This is a borderline open, but as it is suited and the table hasn't done a lot of 3-betting except for the one loose aggressive player, but everyone else has been quite passive. So I opened this one up to 15. And the reason why I went so big was because the loose aggressive player had moved to my left, and he had 3-bet me a few times when I went a bit smaller. So I'm now just trying to make it look like I have a big hand for him when I open it bigger. I know this is a bit of a meta game there. Probably everyone else completely didn't know what I was doing, but it didn't matter. So I make it 15, and the big blind calls. And the flop is ace king 4, and we do have a backdoor club draw, and we have a gut shot, and I think this is a good board for my range, so I definitely want to c-bet. I am in position, I c-bet half pot, and he calls. Now we get the 9 of clubs on the turn, which is nice because now we also have a flush draw to go with our gut shot. And I was thinking whether to double barrel this one, but then I'm thinking that if he has an ace or a king, this is just not the type of player who would fold here. So I don't really think I can get him to fold. Also, he would continue with the spades draw that he had on the turn. So I just check it behind, and look at this beautiful river. It's the 5 of clubs, and we now have the backdoor flush. And he checks to us, and again I decide to overbet it. This time I don't go more than 2x pot, but there's 60 in the pot, and I make it 100 to go, and he insta shoves for 264. Now this is slightly different than the previous one for 2 reasons, one in a good direction and one in a bad one. First of all, it's not great that he didn't min click it now, so I have to pay more, albeit it's not that much more. I put in 100, so I have to call another 164. But the other thing is, here my hand is a bit more nutted. I have the second nut here, so I only lose to the ace high flush. And the other thing is, because it's the backdoor flush draw, he probably won't put me on that. So I think here he can do this, even though the flush came in. I think he can do this with a set or even two pair or a smaller flush if he somehow backdoored into that as well. So I think this is definitely a call, and we do call, and then he shows 3 deuce of spades and announces a straight. So yeah, I didn't even see the straight there because I absolutely didn't put him on 3 deuce. But yeah, another one. So for the second time, we value bet the river as an over bet, and both times we get raised, and both times we call, and both times we are good. We are really running very good today. This next hand still annoys me, and you'll see soon why. So there are 2 limpers, and the cutoff makes it 18 pounds, and then the button raises to 70 pounds, and we are in the small blinds with ace-king offsuit. And we are super deep, we're about 900 or 1,000 effective here. So I do put in the cold 4-bet to 175 in the small blind, and the button calls. And the flop is not amazing. Jack 8-4 for cold calling 4-bet range. Yes, I mean, I do have jacks plus in there, but I think because we are super deep, I don't mind starting with a check. I still don't really know whether I should maybe start applying pressure, but he has jacks in his range, he has 8s in his range, he won't fold 9s and 10s, he could have slow played aces or even kings or queens, so there are quite a few hands that he can have that just won't fold. So the only hands that I can really fold out here are maybe ace-queen suited that we're ahead of anyway, and potentially ace-king, but I think even that he would call one street. So I just prefer to check and see what he does. He checks behind, and then we have the 7 there on the turn. And at this point, I don't really need to go into bluffing mode, because again, I don't think I can get him to fold any of those hands. I would have to go really big on the flop, or on the turn, sorry, and on the river to get him to fold. So I decided to just check, and he now makes it 75, so that's a really small bet there. And so to this small bet, I don't want to fold if I have 2 overs, although it does seem like he is value betting thinly there, or he's a bit scared as well. But anyway, I do call, and now the queen comes on the river, the backdoor flush draw comes in, and I am tanking for ages, and I'm contemplating whether to bluff this one now pretty big and really wrap queens there. But the thing is, like with aces and kings, I don't think I would have played this way, and I just kind of butchered this a little bit. And now I was thinking again, he still has queens in his range, he has jacks that he could be slow playing, he has 8s that he could be slow playing, and the only hands that I can really get him to fold would be potentially 9s and 10s if I bet really big, but he might even hero call with those, putting me on the exact hand that I have. So I chicken out here, unfortunately, and he snap checks behind with pocket 9s. Now, I still don't know, maybe he would still have called, as I said, but I kind of feel I should have played this hand a little bit more aggressively, but then with the jack, the 8, and the queen, and even the 7 there, I was just worried that he might still have a strong hand, plus the slow played aces and kings if he has that, and there aren't that many hands that I can get to fold. Really 9s and 10s, and maybe if he has the same hand as me, would be the only ones that I could get to fold in this spot. And here's the next hand where I made a mistake, this time pre-flop, because I was on autopilot. And that's why I keep saying try to think what the best solution is in every respective spot rather than autopiloting. And here this lag who was sat to my right, he's now moved to my left. He's under the gun and he raises it up to 15 pounds. The low jack, who is a weaker player, calls, and I have pocket jacks in the big blind. And as I said, I was on autopilot mode. I just 3-bet squeezed this one, and I think this was a mistake because we're super deep at this point, about 400 big blinds deep. Yes, I have a great hand, but I don't want to play it out of position. Of course, I would like to isolate the weaker player, but that's not what's going to happen most of the time because the lag is just probably not going to fold here when we're so deep with whatever he opened pre-flop to 15. And this is exactly what happens. I make it 75, the lag under the gun calls, and the other player folds. So 165 odd in in the pot, and the flop comes a7-5 with 2 diamonds. We do have the jack of diamonds, and if we were 100 big blinds deep, this is a range bet situation, but we're not. We're 400 big blinds deep, and there are no solvers for that. I don't even know what the actual theoretical play would be, so we have to be purely exploitative here, and I don't really think that we would accomplish much by betting, so I decided to start with a check, and he bets fairly small, 50 pounds. I think there's nothing else to do for me than to call. I mean, you could make an argument for folding already, but I think that is a bit too loose against such a player. He might be pushing some smaller edges there, so I think for such a price, especially because we have the jack of diamonds, I think it's fine to call. And then on the turn we do get another diamond. It's the 3 of diamonds. We check, and he checks behind now, and then on the river it's an offsuit king. And at this point I thought of turning my hand into a bluff, but the thing is, he won't fold an ace there. I mean, the only hand that I could potentially get him off is pocket queens, and then if he has 10s, 9s, 8s, then I'm winning anyway. So I decided to check this one, and he now bets 200, which is like, what's that, about 2/3, 3/4 pot there. And I thought about it for a long time, but because I was so passive, he might be pushing smaller edges here, something like ace queen, ace jack, even though I block that, and some other ace x hands, or he might even have some thicker value there. So I decided to fold, and unfortunately I will never find out what he had. Here we are again against this player. I raise king jack of clubs under the gun to 10 pounds, the button calls, and he's now in the small blind and makes it 55. I've kind of had a bit enough of him now doing this all the time. I'm here to play against the weak players, and this guy keeps 3-betting me. I have to put my foot down, so I 4-bet my king jack of clubs. I raise it up to 130 in position. He calls. The flop, not really what I want to see. 8-3 deuce with 2 diamonds, 1 spade. We have 2 clubs, but I still would have to bet here. Not that I have to, but I want to bet. I have to put my foot down, as I said. I make it small, 85, so that he calls with pretty much this entire range. I don't expect him to raise me a lot here, and indeed he does call. Then the 10 comes on the turn. Now I still only have 2 overs, so we have to either give up or we double barrel this one. And because I kept his entire calling range in there pre-flop, and I don't think that he would fold to my 4-bet anyway. I don't think he would ever fold to any 3 or 4-bet that I make, because he is such a loose, aggressive player. So I think he has a lot of ace-x hands there that I can get to fold, or even if I'm ahead of something, although I don't know what I'm ahead of, to be honest, but if there were something, then I would get some protection here at least. But I think this is a pure bluff, and I want to get all the ace-x hands to fold, and potentially he might even fold a small pocket pair that he might have squeezed as a 3-bet. I wouldn't put it past him. So I go 220. He thinks quite hard, and then he lets it go. Phew, finally one that we win against him. In this next one, the hijack limps. That's the player who we won the pot against with our set of 5s. I raise it up to 15 pounds with pocket 6s in the cutoff. You could argue that I should just call behind here, but I think I have a decent hand in position against a weak tight player, definitely going to raise. But now the button calls and the limper calls. So we go 3 ways to a flop, but look at this, 7-6 deuce rainbow. We have middle set, and here we could just lead out, but I prefer to check. I think the guy to my left, the button, will stab. He can stab any pocket pair, and he can also just stab some air if he has that. And then the other player, if he has any piece of this board, or even just ace high, he will probably call, and then we can check raise. And now the button bets 35, which is pretty much on the bigger side. And unfortunately the hijack folds, but because he made it so big, I thought he might have a decent hand there. So if I'm lucky, he even has pocket deuces, or he has an overpair. So I decide to raise this one up to 130. Now, maybe this was a little bit too big, but I do want to get stacks in, and we are quite deep, about 700-800 pounds deep. So I definitely want to make this one quite big. He thinks quite hard for a while, and unfortunately he lets it go. You can't win them all. I mean, we do win it at least, but I would have hoped to make a little bit more money with my middle set in this one. Last hand of the day, we have Queen 8 suited on the button. We'll raise it up to 15 because the straddle is on, and we fully expect the straddle to call because he has not passed on the opportunity to call on any straddle before, and indeed he calls. Flop is 9-5 deuce rainbow. We see bet half pot, I think, in position here against a super wide calling range. That will definitely be profitable. He calls, and I expect him to call very, very wide here. Now, the turn is a 9. I would have double barreled otherwise, but this is not a good card for me, so I'm just checking behind once he checks. And then the 3 on the river, so he checks to me once again, so he's now checked 3 times. I really don't think he has anything, so this flop call would have been very light. So I think we can get him to fold a hand like king high, probably even ace high. Probably not much else. If he does have a piece of the board, then he will call, but my intention is to get him to fold an ace or a king, and so I make it 40 into 60 here, and he folds very quickly, so at least we finish on a high. 7.5 hours of play, 92 pounds in rake paid, plus another 17 for promotions, and the profit exactly 555 pounds. But check out this video here for a really nice session.